You can never be a good investor if you don't know how to understand financial statements of a company. And one of the financial statements is balance sheet. So, do you know how to analyze a balance sheet? Let alone analyze a balance sheet. Do you even know how to understand a balance sheet? Because balance sheet essentially is the current health of the company. There are assets and there are liabilities. The reason we have assets and liabilities in the balance sheet is because assets are something which company owns and liabilities is essentially how it owns. So to give you a more concrete example, assets could be something like cash, plant, machinery, you can say this PPE, plant, property and equipments. And assets can also be something related to, let's say I have some kind of a goodwill. Now what is a goodwill? Let's talk about the liabilities. Liabilities could be debt, it could be long term, short term, it could be some kind of a payables which the company has to make, it has not made yet. And similarly, the payables can also be an asset if the company is expecting some kind of a payables which they have not received yet. In liabilities, there's one more thing which is called the shareholder equity and retained earnings and so on and so forth. So the shareholder section, I will just say shareholders equity and plus plus. Debt and equity are the owners of the assets, which is cash, PPE, goodwill, payables. A very simple and crisp summary of a balance sheet. Now we need to balance out the assets and liabilities. So definitely not everything balances out automatically. There are few plug-in items as well which just acts as a balancing figure. One of that thing is goodwill. So let's understand what exactly is goodwill. Let's take an example of a company, Alphabet Inc., which is a holding company of Google. And as you might be aware that Google kind of buys a lot of companies. So all these acquisitions of companies will definitely be added in the goodwill line. So you see goodwill is around $22 billion, which was $21 billion in December of 2020. This somehow comes in when you acquire a lot of companies and their assets don't match up to the price which you have paid, right? So you pay a lot of price, but that price definitely comes from liabilities, debt and shareholder equity. So how do you balance out the extra liability which has come over here when you acquire some company? You just create a goodwill item. Now this is something which is controversial because a lot of times goodwill could be because of the brand value and things like those as well, as it's not really tangible, right? One other way to classify items in balance sheet is tangible and non-tangible, right? So cash is a tangible asset, PPE is a tangible asset, right? But goodwill is not a tangible asset, it's an intangible asset, right? One more thing, how do you identify what is the cash status? You can see that the balance sheet of Apple has two things over here, cash and cash equivalents and marketable securities. Now these are the items which are generally available for the company, and this is like marketable security is something like, if I have to give you the analogy of an individual, let's say you earn some amount of money, so you store a bit of cash in your bank and a bit of income goes to investing in share market, in mutual funds and so on. If that investment which you have made in share market is liquid, you can get it out at any point of time by selling it, that becomes like a cash for you as well. So when I say marketable securities, or when Apple says marketable securities, it means it's ready for them, right, as on the date listed on top. So you can say cash and cash equivalents of Apple has been provided over here. So you can see that the cash and cash equivalents and marketable securities have decreased from last year. There could be many reasons for that. So now you have understood that what are the important things to consider: cash, debt and goodwill. These are the main things of a balance sheet. The cash must be high, debt must be low. Ideally would like goodwill to be low, but generally goodwill should never be present here. If goodwill is there, it should be low, because goodwill is a marker of acquisition. And if you see that the company's goodwill is rising by a lot year on year, quarter on quarter, you can say that this is something which is not good for the company. So this is a very standard way to analyze a balance sheet. Now obviously this will not help you in investments straight away. You'll have to get into various kinds of ratios which are related to balance sheet, right? because in finance, in investing, a lot of valuation happens on terms of multiples and ratios, and there are a lot of balance sheet ratios available, right? So just Google balance sheet ratios. You can just Google balance sheet ratios, and you will get a lot of ideas on how to use balance sheet to value a company. Now the thing over here is, this is not the end, this is just a starting. I would suggest that go to the financial statements of Apple, go to the financial statements of Google or Alphabet, and try to understand the different types of items in the balance sheet. I will show you how to go to the financial statements of Google or Apple, and then it will be easier for you. So what you do is, first go on to Google and search Edgar search. Now the thing which you have to click on is this company search page. Once this opens up, just write Apple search, and then you can very much find out here Apple Inc. Just click on here, and then 10Q or 10K. These are the two files which you have to be aware about, 10Q or 10K. You can see there's a 10K over here. Just directly click on documents, click on this thing, and then this is the 10K or the annual report for Apple. This is how you get to the annual report. Now how to locate the financial statements, right? So this is your financial statements. You see, click on here. This is your statement of operations. This is the statement of income. This is your consolidated balance sheet. So this is how you get to the balance sheet of Apple, and similarly you can get the balance sheet of Google or Alphabet and whatnot. Try to understand what's happening to the cash year on year or quarter on quarter, similarly debt, and try to understand that why the company's cash or debt is changing by going to the other financial statements. So if you want a video on other financial statements as well, do comment down below, and don't forget to give this video a like. Also subscribe to the channel if you're new.